I want to start with a special message for the Iceman, John Scully. Boop boop, boop boop. You're welcome on in. Enswell Boxing, Ireland's only boxing podcast. I'm Al Rich, and you'll find all our episodes, new and old, www.enswellboxingpodcast.com. You can WhatsApp us 083351 5250, and of course you'll find us on all the social media platforms. It's my privilege and pleasure to be in your ears for the duration of this episode 1 of season 2. And I want to start first and foremost by wishing our friends, family, listeners and all you dream makers who are helping this podcast grow and grow and grow a peaceful, prosperous, barn-burning, ass-kicking 2020. I hope everybody had a good one. We'll get into unpacking that in a few minutes. But I got a message over the break from a good friend of mine, a big supporter here, and Joe Santry. Shout out to you, Joe, and thanks again. He texted me one of the nights, how many episodes are we on now, bud? And the answer, and I wasn't being blasé, I probably was a little bit jarred, but I wasn't 100% sure, and I know it's upwards of 85 episodes, 85 I think it is. I wasn't being dismissive, Joe, you know that yourself, and I will figure it out, I'll get it back to you as well. And a very special mention to a special fella down there as well, Sean Dowling. Had the privilege of chatting with him on the phone on that same night, as I did with the boss man himself, keeping them all in check. Pedro, you had your hands full that night, and my very best pal Fino, of course, there in the middle of it all, as usual. But great crack over the Christmas. Brilliant to hear and see from people over the break that you might not see most times of the year, and I suppose that is the highlight of Christmas, really, isn't it, for us so-called, I think we're adults, are we? Is that what we're referred to sometimes? But thanks to all the lads. Be in touch with you soon. Yeah, it's exciting times for the podcast. Had some contact over, had a lot of contact over the Christmas, which really just blew my mind and allowed me now to believe that this is going where hoped but never really believed it would. Certainly not so soon. But it's not that I can't. I don't want to go into too much detail until it's ironed out. But I will definitely, by next week's episode, I will promise have some information for you on it. Basically, we have a new sponsor. Let's just say we had to rewrite the goals and the ambitions for the year. And that's no exaggeration. So promise you I'll have some word for you on that next week. But for now, let's get on to the shout-outs. Probably going to break these up into 2 sections, because 2 rounds, we'll have 2 rounds, keep it boxing terminology. So special connection in the last few days with the crew down under. Boxing right now in Australia is just growing. And it's all on the back of Dennis Hogan, Stratton Boxing Gym, Jeff Horn and the fellas, Glenn Rushton and all the guys there. So big shout out. We're going to hear over the next few days and weeks from Desi. We'll hear from Benny Mahoney, Abani Banks, Joel Calamari, Drew Hunt, and of course Dee Hobbs, who is about to fight for a world title on the 8th of February, would you believe, in Gary, Indiana. And should she win that title, which I've no doubt she will, it puts her in line for a shot at our very own Katie Taylor. But all first things first, Dee has to beat and win that fight against McGee on February 8th, which I do believe she will. So, but special shout out and thanks to all the guys there at DDP Promotions, Wesso, Nick Noonan, all the fellas down there and the girls. Chat over the Christmas just brought me back to feeling like a 10-year-old, thinking, dreaming, smiling, nervous, afraid, and all that rolled into one, and all in a positive way. Believing, willing, ready and able as we go into this new year. First one in a long time, I can say. First time. But as well, while we're down under there, big shout out to Dobbo, Siobhan and the gang. Hope you guys are safe. Orange in Australia, it's heartbreaking to see the fires and to see the just utter chaos in such a beautiful country. And just stay safe, and that goes out to all our Irish patrons down there, and our everybody has friends, family, relations somewhere along the line in Australia, and it really is. It's getting too epidemic. It's getting to almost. I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate without saying, but without being there firsthand. But it's just sad to see such a beautiful place reduced to rubble, smoke, and tinder. Thanks for the messages for you guys. We'll be chatting, as I said, really soon. The Mount Melick Mafia, under the thumb of the Pedro, the sheriff himself. Sean, Joe, Fino, Gozzy, Bow, all the lads down there. Serious training now. It's not funny anymore. Detox and training. Dart season coming to a close, and there's serious challenge been meant for the Laois Darts tournament. So the boys now, no more messing. They'll be out doing their Rocky style training around Emo and the likes. So shout out to you. Great crack, great chats, and catch up with you really soon. To the boxing family up there in Belfast, it's been a dark few days, really has, and my heart goes out. My thoughts, best wishes and love go out to the family of those two young fighters who have lost their life in separate incidents over the last few days. It's just heartbreaking. It is. It's beyond words. And just hope all you guys can band together in the clubs and do your best just to stay as strong as possible. But I know it's not easy. Shout out to John Breen, Laura Breen, Davy Smith, all the family, to Ali Mackenzie and soon to be Louise Mackenzie, who is Louise Welsh right now. How many days, Lou? How many days have we to go? And all the guys up there. It was good to catch up with you, and thanks for your messages, means a lot. And moving across then to Swindon, where of course the enigmatic, the pioneer, the one and only Paddy Fitzpatrick. Lovely message from you on Christmas Eve, meant a lot, Paddy. Thank you very much. And Beck, hats off. Listen, you're already the champion in my eyes, right? But now you're the champion of work hard, play hard, and your escapades over the Christmas would run Rodney and Del Boy close, I can tell you. Brilliant. And you know what? You deserve it too, because nobody works harder. Nobody. Very few work harder, I would say. So again, to Luke, Ryan and all the little dudes over there, shout out to you guys. Anyone in the area as well, get along there. Bex's class is coming up, and I promise you, you're going to feel the benefit. You will feel the pain, the burn, whether it's from the workout or the laughing that you'll do at her infectious personality and her great character. Get along there if you need some fitness, expertise and advice. No better woman. Eamon King-Kane, thank you, my man. Albert Sakesha, Gary Cat and all the Limerick crew, Graham. And thank you guys for your messages. Catching up with you soon. And Siobhan O'Leary, we'll be on to you really soon. Big news coming for Siobhan, I understand. What it is I'm not so sure. I can guess, but I won't. Stevie Donnelly, brilliant to see you get sorted on Stevens' day. I know things have changed a little bit over the last couple of days, but thanks to everybody that I pestered, mithered, tormented, hassled, annoyed on Boxing Day. Chris Blaney, Ricky Hatton, D-Tag and all of those guys did everything they could. Basically Stevie's little fella got tickets for a match over the Christmas off Santy, and they turned out to be the wrong tickets. So they were in Wolverhampton, crisis point. So we called out all the stops. We did everything we could between 3 or 4. Well, certainly I did anyways. Anybody I did. And luckily enough, we came up with a pair of tickets. And if you see the smile on that little fella's face, it makes it all worthwhile. And I'm not talking about Stevie's. His was pretty broad too, but it's brilliant. And I'm delighted for you. So thanks to everybody who didn't tell me to off and go on Boxing Day of all days. Means a lot. Thank you. It was wonderful as well to hear from Dex Spellman, Adam Westcard, all the family there, the boxing family at Carl Greaves Promotions. Great to be in touch with you guys. Big year ahead, starting really soon too, I believe. So, and Adam, super heavyweight, looking good, champ, looking good. Can't wait to chat soon, okay? A big shout out and a big 2020 coming for all the team up there in the high performance unit in Blanchardstown, who are just absolutely keeping themselves in tip-top shape, ready to go to Bulgaria. Have you seen the squad? Have you seen the squad that's going to Bulgaria? Wow. Coming into Olympic year, unbelievable team, unbelievable. There's going to be some massive headaches there, but shout out to you all particularly the ones that I've been lucky enough to get to know and chat with over the last few months. Kelly Harrington, Grania Walsh, Tony Brown. Happy birthday to you, Tony. Big shout out to you. Didn't forget, I was late seeing it, so I made a note of it, said we'd give it a nod in this episode. So happy birthday to you. Hope you had a good one wherever it was. I believe Crowpatrick, I think it was. And no rest for the champions, as he always says. Pressure is a privilege. And Regan Buckley, man, you made me shrivel. I think we had definitely 2, possibly 3 belly buttons looking at you lads dipping in and out of the sea in Bray over the Christmas. Unbelievable. You have more guts and nuts than I have, I can tell you. To Carly McNall and all the gang, as I said, up there at the unit, thank you for your time over the last 12 months, and looking forward to this Olympic year for all of you. Massive one. And as I said, we'll get to round 2 of the shout-outs in a few minutes. Let's have a look at what's coming in today's episode. We'll have a look at the runners and riders, the movers and shakers, the who's who and what's what of boxing over the last few days. Not massive things going on in boxing terms, so to speak, but there are little bits of information and little bits of news. We'll have a look at the Irish landscape, we'll have a look at what's been happening pertaining to Irish fighters around the world, and we'll give a heads up on all that news. My guest in this episode, of course, is the former British, Commonwealth, European and World Lightweight Champion. He was Luton born, Kilcullen descendant, Billy Schwer.
The lessons that you get from stepping into that ring, training for a fight, preparing, courage, and figuring it out, working it out, and then you could apply that to life outside of the ring.
Setting the bar high for episode 1, it's an incredible boxing story of the highs and lows that every fighter at every level goes through.
Dad was the Irish featherweight champion. He boxed for England. Was very successful as an amateur. So then he taught me everything that he knew. You
climb your summit, and then you have to face the dreaded retirement at the end of it, and listen to how Billy dealt with all of that, and now look at where he's at today. Brilliant conversation, and my huge thanks to Billy for his time. It was really enjoyable, really was. And in the first for the podcast, we're going to have a giveaway. Billy's been very, very gracious and brilliant to give me a couple of signed copies of his book, Man Up. All you got to do to be in with a chance of winning, share the link for this episode, like it, and leave a little comment underneath. Christmas would never be Christmas without pantomime. And what better sport to provide some punching pantomime than boxing? And certainly has been some bizarre boxing going on over the last few days as regards news, centred a lot around Fury Wilder 2. Of course, it was announced that the rematch will go ahead in MGM Grand on February 22. But news after that seems to be just a little bit slow and trickling out. I don't believe there's any reason to doubt or question promoters of the stature and calibre of Queensberry Boxing and, of course, Frank Warren and Top Rank. I've no reason to doubt it, none whatsoever. Why may there be a delay? I could speculate maybe the change of manager or the change of trainer for Tyson Fury maybe has just caused a little bit of upheaval that they needed to iron out. It possibly could be to do with purses and everything else. Ring Magazine have thrown their lot into the ring, saying that the belt will be on the line for that fight also. There was a lot of speculation, wide shots and wide misses around the last promotion as well, and centred from a rival promoter, as we all know, who likes to be the pantomime villain at times, and they're all good at playing that role when needs be. I don't doubt this fight will go ahead. Possibly, will it change by a week or two? Maybe so. Would it matter? No. Do I doubt? No. Do I think it will be a spectacle? Absolutely. And I think for the maximum promotion and for the absolute utmost out of it, they do tend to want around 12 weeks to promote such mammoth events. So time will tell, watch the space, but there's no reason to doubt ever a promoter of Frank Warren's stature. There's no reason, none whatsoever. Don't forget what he's done in the past. Don't forget what a spectacle the last fight was, and what an unbelievable fight it was too. And don't expect any less from the second. We may even see them go again at it for the third. Could that be one of the wrinkles they're ironing out? Who knows? Say not until you hear more. Christmas, how was it for you? Did you enjoy it? Did you get the feet up? Did you get the TV remote on the arm of the chair, phone plugged in beside you, the feet up, the box of sweets on the couch, and whatever your drink of choice, shall we say, right beside you too? I hope you had a good one. I went for the polar bear stroke hibernation week over the Christmas. Tried to get fat and hibernate, didn't get fat, managed to stay cold, but did do a little bit of hibernating, and it was tremendous. It really was tremendous. Good food, good company, good crack, and bad TV, shall we say. Well, as far as TV goes, did anybody get to see anything really interesting? Apart from the replays of Jurassic Park, Home Alone, and then I think maybe Jurassic Park again, and possibly then just thrown in for good measure at the end, maybe Willy Wonka somewhere. Who knows? I went the other route. I went for Netflix. I was really, really intrigued. I'm really enthralled right now with the Kevin Hart documentary. And I can't make up my mind. About it. Lots of different angles at it. And he does certainly show the side of him that you wouldn't have seen before. And it doesn't affect I think he is the best comedian, one of the best comedians on the circuit right now. He's a phenomenal actor and just a really good person. But it certainly shows the angles that all these top performers have, and it shows some of it. Did he choose to let that out? There's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but I'll reserve judgment till I get to the end of it. I'm about halfway through it right now. Also watching Mindhunter, Unit 82, and that second season of You. All interesting in their own way and kept me occupied watched some of Last Chance, You and Hard Knocks as well. And a really good documentary. Anyone that most people might not be into it, but World War II and Vietnam documentaries. I know. Tried to steer a little bit clear of the boxing for a while. But I do want to watch the Inoue and Donaire fight again. And as I was trying to say in the run-up to the Christmas, that it's not a joyous time for everybody. And very, very sad and sorry to hear of an old pal in Newbridge passing away again, way too soon. And you know what? With the tragedies in Belfast, and a massive, massive shout of respect to Mick Conlon, Sean McComb, to Paddy Barnes, Carl Frampton, and all the boxing family up there, for all the bad press that this sport gets, and that the fighters get, and that the sport in general gets all around. It's times like this when the worst of the worst things happen, where it's so hard to comprehend the pain and everything else that goes with it, that you see the best of this sport, and you see the best of the people in this sport. The guys are rallying around, they're signing autographs they're signing gloves, they're signing shorts, and they're raffling them off, and they're making mounts of money for the family that, look, it's not going to bring the little man back, but it is going to ease the burden of a time that is just too painful and sad to comprehend for most, if not all. So massive respect to Mick Conlon, Sean McComb, and all the lads up there in Belfast, and everybody else that's doing their bit for it. It's a special thing to see. And it reminded me a little bit of something that happened to me. I guess the catalyst for having to change, not having to change, but wanting to change. And it was 3 years ago this year, Christmas just gone. Long story short, I decided, I had heard from a friend of mine in Newbridge. He's from Slovakia. He was having a rough time. He was sleeping in the shed, a garage floor, and I didn't know about it at all, but he texted me. Now, shout out to Peter, hope you're doing well, my friend, wherever you're at these days. But he had hit some rough times anyway, and I found out about it. So I put together, now this is not something I would have done at the time, an awful lot of, wouldn't have done it at all, to be honest. But I put together a little hamper, basket of pudding and foods and anything I could find. There was lots of it around the house, fruit and crisps and a little nagging of something to keep him warm. Drove in, called him and gave it to him, and he was delighted. Look, I think I gave him a blanket or a sleeping bag as well, and anything I could do just to make it a little bit less horrible for the Christmas for him. But I was on the way back. It was a terrible, horrible night. Horrible night. Wind was blowing at silly gale force. The rain was coming down straight, and I was about 5 minutes from home and just about coming into the village, and all I can explain it as, it was happening this, and when I started explaining this, it was happening in seconds, and I could see something in front of me, but I could see nothing in front of me. I could see a movement, but I couldn't see anything, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something, and then I didn't know what. I couldn't. So the reaction and the natural instinct was to jam on the brakes, turn the wheel away towards the side of the road, towards the ditch, which was at worst a 3-foot drop. So in this time it took me to compute, try and figure out what it was. It was a tree coming down across the road, and what I was seeing was the limbs, the branches, the leaves, and it was like a wall. Slowly, it seemed like it was slowly, but it was, as I said, it was happening in seconds. And the tree came down as I was literally jammed on the brakes. I was skidding towards it, and in those couple of seconds I realised what was going to happen. So by the time I realised what was going to happen, it had happened. The tree bounced on the road, and with the spring from the limbs and the branches and everything else, it bounced back up off the road just as I skidded to a stop right in under it. And as it came back down, bounced back down, it stopped, rested, obviously covered most of the car, the bonnet and everything else, but no huge limbs, just the normal branches and leaves. And I sat there for a couple of seconds, got out for a couple of seconds and got back in. I managed to get the car out from under it, had to drive around it, and got home, and panicked then when I got home. Of course it kicked in and everything else, but not really till the next day when I was driving through and I saw the sheer size of that tree. It was the width of the road, at least. It was across the road into I was managing to drive under. What had happened was the boughs had, whatever the shape of the tree was, I was able to drive under them. And the council were cutting it into rings that were, they were big. The tree was big. And if I didn't stop when I stopped, who knows what would have happened. But it got me to thinking, and it got me to ripping up the script, and I did, and I changed pretty much, I won't say everything, but I certainly changed the way I thought, the way I looked. So when I looked, I see. When I listen, I hear. And I see things. I see just a lot of things. I open my mind. I open my everything. Broadened it. And yeah, changed relationships, changed friends. Some for the better, some for the worse. It wasn't all easy. It wasn't all... But it had to be done. And I believe now I'm a better place for it. I'm in a better place for it. I believe I was about a second away, if not two, from not having that opportunity. And it took that for me to wake up a little bit, to wake up a whole bit. And when you hear of things happening to people who it shouldn't happen to, and it shouldn't happen to anybody, but when you hear of little fellas that are been taken away from their families, and their families, their lives now are just never to be the same again. I hear of people, good friend of mine over the Christmas, whose loved ones passed, not many of them, but one in particular who's in my thoughts all the time, and he's had a bloody rough time of it lately, a bloody rough time of it, and he's still soldiering on, you know. So not to be a buzzkill, I don't want to take this down too low, but really what I'm saying is don't wait for something like that to happen to make those changes. And the only reason I'm telling this story now is because I was chatting to my good pal Toby. Shout out to Toby and Sarah over there in Bagua in Lasagna. Bagua tattoo, of course. Toby said to me, Jesus mate, you'd never told me that story. I said, no, kind of realised I hadn't. And he said, you should tell that story, you should tell it. So I am. And basically, not preaching, I'm not trying to be anything, I'm not in a position to do it, but it took that for me to wake up. And I had a lot of silly little traits, a lot of silly little habits, and look, I still do, to be honest with you, but as I said, it took me for that to happen, for me to look inwards and see what needed to be done. And I was very lucky. I believe I was blessed, and if it wasn't for that, a sequence of dots wouldn't have been joined that led to this dream of mine right now and everything that goes. So as I said, don't wait for it to happen. It could happen, and is happening every day to people, and it's just too horrific to even think about it. So let's be positive. Let's do what we can to lift as many as we can. We'll never be able to lift everybody. That's not possible. It's not realistic. But anyone that wants to, reach out to them. Give them a shout. These next couple of days are going to be rough, heading on into the big bleak January. It's always a blue month. But look, we're almost a week through it now. Not too far to go. Another 2.5. Okay, maybe 3. But let's all pull together and we'll get through it. As always, people, I would ask you to help in whatever way possible Tree of Hope. Who are Tree of Hope? Tree of Hope are a little small charity, if you want, who provide a symbol of support to all of us and all of those who are sadly affected or suffered suicide or are living with mental health issues. And we all know somebody. Everybody knows somebody. We all do, sadly. It's an epidemic. It was threatening to get out of control, but thanks to Noreen and like-minded people, they are battling back, and they need help and they need support. And I'm asking anybody to get in touch with Noreen. The show notes at the bottom of every episode that we've produced so far, Tree of Hope. They donate all that's needed for these little symbols. They supply a tree, they supply the stake and the plaque. All you got to do is get in touch. They'll do the rest. You find a green or a public area, you get permission from your local authority or your club, school, college, workplace, wherever, and you get in touch with the person there, and Noreen will supply the rest. That's all you have to do. If you want to do a fundraiser, if you want to help somebody, please do that also. But don't forget, no matter what, if you can, Tree of Hope today. So earlier in the episode I mentioned a multi-nations tournament in Stranja, Bulgaria that's coming up at the end of January. The Irish squad that's been named, wait till you hear this for a squad. 51 kg girls are going, Ciara Smith and Carly McNall. 57 kgs, Michaela Walsh. 60 kg, Kelly Harrington and Amy Broadhurst. 69 kg, Chrissy Desmond and Grania Walsh. And 75 kg, Aoife O'Rourke. And in the men's, 52 kg, Jude Gallagher. 57 kg, Kurt Walker and Dean Clancy. 63 kg, George Bates, Wayne Kelly. 69 kg, Aidan Walsh, Kieran Malloy. And in the 75 kg division, Michael Nevin. 81 kg, Emmett Brennan. 91 kg, Kirill Afanasov. In the 91 kg plus, Ken Oggenbauer and Antoine O'Griefa. Now cast your minds back a little bit to this time last year and the squad that went to the Box Cup in Germany and how successful they were. In Olympic year, that is a squad and a half to be sending. Watch out for medals, get behind this team, put the bias and politics and everything behind, and get behind them now. British, Commonwealth, European and World Lightweight Champion. And if you're impressed by that, well then you're going to be blown away by the full story that Billy is going to tell you in a few minutes. But there's a lot more to it than what we get into in the interview itself. Billy had a bond and a connection with his coach, Jack Lindsay. You'll hear him speak of him towards the back end of the interview. It's beautiful to hear and it flows. It comes from the heart. And I know how upset he was when Jack passed last year. And I did think at the time of doing something, but the plan always was to speak with Billy. And I think now that the dust has settled on it, it's an absolute honour and pleasure to be able to kick off 2020 with such a superb example of when shit goes down and when you're under the cosh, when things aren't going well and you're just getting that poor me just about starting to creep in, you stamp the foot on the floor and you think, no, to hell with this. Here's how Billy went about his career: winning, losing and winning again, okay? In 1992, he won the Commonwealth title. 93, he lost it to Paul Burke in February of that year. He went back in November of the same year, had a fight in between, and in November he went back and knocked out Paul Burke, won his title back. 95, he boxed Rafael Rufus for the IBF world title, lost that one. 97, he won his European title. 99, 2000 and 2001, he boxed 3 separate occasions for world titles, the WBC, WBU and the IBO. Lost the 3 of them. Built himself back up in between each of those fights and came back in 2001 and won his IBO world lightweight title. Now at any one of those junctions in that road, on that journey, any one of those potholes could, would and probably should have been enough to derail that train. To put the hand up and said, you know what, I've given this everything I've had. But no. And then he won his title, retired later on in 2001, and then the real fights came. The real fights, and he'll tell you about those now in a few minutes. And there was another opportunity where you could just throw the hands in the air, slap the thighs and say, poor me, this isn't working out. But I did this and I did that and live on what you did in the past. No, the champion comes to the fore again. It's a real honour and a privilege and a connection, I have to say, that I believe is special. For me, to speak with Billy Schwer with Kildare connections, Irish connections, but just Billy Schwer the person was a real privilege. I thank you for your time, Billy. I thank you for the cheeky text yesterday as well, by the way. I'm looking forward to people getting to hear your story and seeing what a genuine champion you really are.
Work itself out, but like yours has and mine has, and it's been 100 videos later, 6 months down the road, I'm just seeing the benefit of it. So there we go.
I keep saying, if you take all the points in boxing that makes a good boxer, the honesty, the discipline, the harshness, the ability to take the thumps, the ability to give them, take all those out and put them into the quote-unquote real world, they'll make better people.
The lessons that you get from stepping into that ring, training for a fight, preparing, stepping in that courage, and figuring it out, working it out, and then you could apply that to life outside of the ring if you can find the right vehicle, because that's the challenge that a lot of fighters have. Is when they come out of the ring and they retire from boxing, it's like, what do you do with what you just learned, what you've had ingrained in you over the years? What do you then do with that learning, that skill? That's the challenge for us all. That transition from being an ex-fighter to life in the real world, the so-called real world, as you put it. Yeah, it's a challenging one.
In life, like coaches, you'll have mentors. I had 2 just phenomenal mentors growing, and I didn't realise at the time. You think now
If I'd known how good they were, if I'd known how valuable they were, I would have clung to them for dear life, you know.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, right?
We want to start talking Kildare connection.
So my dad taught me at years of age, and then eventually my dad introduced me to Gentleman Jack when I was around about 16, 17 years of age. But it was my dad was the initial introduction.
You grew up in Luton, is that right, Billy?
I said born and bred Luton. My dad came over.
Growing up in Luton, he brought to the gym the Luton Irish, wasn't it?
My dad started a gym downstairs, just a little room, makeshift. We used to put the ring up every night, you know, ring up, put the corner post in the floor. They had them concreted in, so they do it every night, and then so that's where it all started. That was the Holy Ghost Centre in Luton. Then eventually I went to the Luton Boys Club when I was about 10 or so. Then obviously with the Irish, we ended up going to Luton Irish. Mick Hawes, who was in contact with my dad and stuff, so he kind of got us to go over there, and that's where we ended up in Luton Irish.
Was your dad taking you there to keep you busy, to keep you occupied, to keep you from getting into trouble?
Because he recalls it. I can't remember, but I used to ask him to take me to the gym. Because I used to see in the loft his old boxing boots, the old black and white pictures, the old horse hair. You remember the horse? They were up in the loft, so kind of I was aware of it. But then he recalls it. I asked him to take me down the gym because obviously my dad was the Irish featherweight champion. He boxed for England. Yeah. He was very successful as an amateur. So then he taught me everything that he knew. As a kid,
you got the bug,
and that was it. And then I found that I was good at it, and I was no good at school, so I kind of sport and boxing was my way of proving myself.
Yes.
I wanted something to excel at. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be good at something, and I was no good at school. I'm dyslexic. I spent most of my time looking out the window, and it was kind of I just had no interest in it. So then I was boxing, and so I had my first contest when I was 11. And then, so it kind of went from there. Then we did the schoolboys. I won the schoolboys when I was 13, and that was a great start. But that fight there, before that fight, I was so petrified. I remember as I was about to step into the ring, was just about to glove up before we stepped up into the ring. The championships, the finals were at the assembly rooms in Derby. And I remember I couldn't sleep the night before. I couldn't eat anything. I was an absolute nervous wreck. And we arrived at the venue, and it's the biggest building I've ever been in at the time. It's huge, it was. We walk in there, and it's like, I was petrified. And as I was putting the gloves on, I looked at my dad. I said, Dad, I can't do it. He says, what do you mean? Dad, I feel sick. I can't do it. I feel sick. He goes, Jesus, when you be ran off looking for someone to be sick? And I actually threw up. I found these big curtains. I went, I'm actually physically sick.
Yeah.
I wiped the sick from my mouth. I went back to see my dad. We put the gloves on, and I stepped up into the ring, an absolute petrified young man, boxed for 3 rounds, and I stepped out that ring a champion. And that was my first experience. And when I go to speak at events, one of the things that I talk about is KO fear. And that was my first experience of knocking fear out. I stepped up into the ring petrified. And then in that moment, I realized that, you know what? We can succeed. If we can find the courage to step up, put ourselves at risk, if we're prepared to fail, we can succeed. So I knew that from a 13-year-old kid. So that was a huge life lesson.
Did those nerves follow you, Billy, the whole way before your fights?
All the way through.
Every fight you were the same?
Right up until the very last fight, absolutely. They're not a bad thing to have.
You're never blocking them out when nerves are, because I find that before a big interview, I have created this little other person that I turn, and it sounds silly to people that mightn't, but it's like,
Brilliant.
Yeah, and it's like I used to do it when I used to play music years ago, so when you'd be going on stage, I was a drummer, and I was really, really nervous.
Really?
Yeah, really nervous, and I used to pretend I was just this other thing, and this, and that's why I get when you hear the likes of Bowie becoming Ziggy and these people, and then they throw away Ziggy after a while. They don't need him because the person comes out as it goes on, and it's brilliant.
Well, that's a great lesson for us all. It's about separating yourself. If you're that nervous person, take yourself out of your body and be somebody else.
One of the things that comes out so clearly of your story and comes out when you speak is we have it in us. Every one of us have that in us. It's to find it.
Well, it's unlocking and unleashing it. That's the bit. That's what I do as a coach, as a personal. And I call myself I position myself as a personal performance coach. Now, the reason for that is performance, like you just said, is very personal. It's different for each and every one of us. What inspires, what empowers somebody don't necessarily work for the other person. So you need to discover and unlock and unleash people's own full potential so then they can run with it. And it's just, once people ignited and they're ready to go, then you just got to direct them. It's just, we're a guide as a coach. We're just guiding people.
Yeah. And again, I suppose to tip back into your boxing life, I suppose the obvious question is, Billy the coach, Billy the fighter, similar, totally different?
When I was in the back of the ambulance, when I just lost my world title, and we were on the way to hospital, this was my second trip to hospital, and I'm in the back of the ambulance, the sirens are blaring, we're dodging through the traffic, and I can remember looking out the window, and it was a Saturday night, it was raining, it was dark, it was miserable, and I remember looking out the window thinking to myself, you know what, my life as I know it is over. And that was when I made the toughest decision I've ever made to retire from boxing. And it's about life-changing decisions. They're tough to make. They're hard. It's hard. Yeah. Then that was when my world fell apart, and that was the start of. And I struggled for a couple of years, and then obviously coming to where I am today, Billy the boxer was no longer serving Billy. So the paradox is, what had me be a champion in the ring was having me fail outside of it, because those attributes that we have to become a champion, they didn't always work in different areas of my life. So I didn't know how to be anything other than Billy the boxer. So I was Billy the boxer from a kid of 8 years of age. So there I am, 31, a man, and I'm no longer Billy the boxer. And it's a very, very difficult thing to give up, because we get so attached, fighters especially, we get so attached to our past, and we identify with being the fighter that we was. And it's difficult to let that go.
You're trained to keep it, no matter what's going on inside, to keep that face and to keep everything.
Yeah, you're trained. So there I was. I'm trained and conditioned to fight, defend, attack, resist, and confront. That's who I am. And I've been trained like that now. I used to step into the ring prepared to die. Kill or be killed. That was my existence. My life was kill or be killed. Now so what do you do with that? When that's no longer there and you're no longer acting that out, what do you do with that? And it's just a very, very difficult to get your head around, because you're wired a certain way.
Yeah.
And that works in the boxing arena. If it doesn't work, we struggle outside of boxing. And and that's the challenge for us all. So my book that I've written is called Man Up. And the reason I put Man Up, it's Man Up the World Champion way. And the reason I've called it Man Up, it's about manning up, but it ain't what you think it is. So as a boxer, when you hear a boxer saying man up, you think they're about to be more aggressive, being more domineering, but all that kind of world that you think, that is what has somebody become a champion boxer. But to be a man in the world and to be happy, fulfilled and satisfied, which I am now, more so than ever. I'm happier now than ever. So, and it's an inside job, because we look externally for happiness and fulfillment and satisfaction, but it's an inside job. You have to get it within yourself and find that. What is it? And then figure it out. And I've been on this journey for 18 years, and it's not been a pretty one. It's been a roller coaster.
Really?
I found a way, and I figured it out, and here I am. And that's why I put it into a book, because I figured it out.
There's 2 chapters in that book that I thought were the doubt and focus part is so relevant to me, because on a good day, I could sit and talk and look, to touch a little bit what you said with school wise, I was the same. It wasn't for me. I could do certain parts of it, other parts of it I just didn't want to know about it. And when I hit that part I didn't want to know, I pulled the parachute, which is get myself out of the class as quick as I could, and the only way I could do that was by cause trouble. So I was out into the class, out into the corridor, or wherever I could go. That was it. So college was never going to be for me. And
well, you sound a bit similar to me. I'm a rebel. I don't like being told what to do. I want to do it. I'm kind of like that, and I don't want to conform. That's kind of who I am as well. So I've ended up where I am now. I'm 50, just turned 50. And I've never had a proper job in my life. I've kind of figured it out, and I've never been employed. The only time I was employed, I had an apprenticeship when I was left school, 16, 17, 18. I did an apprenticeship as a carpenter, so I'm a qualified City and Guilds trained carpenter. So that was how I started. But I've never had a job since, and I couldn't even imagine having a job. But that's just who I am, and it's not, and we're all so different, right? And some people I would like to be like that sometimes, because it's difficult being the way that we are and being an entrepreneur and having a go and fail.
One thing I always had was, I suppose, and comes back to the inception of this, is the one thing Irish were always good at: fighting, talking, singing, telling stories. And I think this ITA, there's plenty of those things. Yeah, there's a few other F's we could add in there, but we'll keep it. But in this technical era, we've got away from. We've got away from telling stories. We've got away from interacting with each other. We've gone to this distant place. And what the beauty of boxing is, I suppose, is there's everybody in boxing has a story of some sort, and it's to get that story. And I'm now at a point in my life where I'm comfortable enough, if it's emotional and there's tears and whatever else, which there has been, and it's a standing joke here with some of the people that listen. But I'm quite happy, Billy, if I'm watching something, or I watched Paddy Considine's movie a while ago, the Journeyman. And I was an absolute mess. I was a mess watching it. It was just, but it was real mess. It wasn't done. I didn't care.
I think we want to get moved, right? Life's moving. We want to get moved. And if you cry, you get excited. We want to get movement somewhere. And it's great to get moved to tears. That's powerful, isn't it? Powerful.
It is powerful. Really. And I find a lot with music as well. I could be listening to a piece of, I could be walking through the house and something will come on and it's literally stops me in my tracks. And I'd often say it a bit,
trigger.
The hair goes up my neck, and someone said, "What are you talking?" And for years, I thought that happened. Everybody.
So when I retired from boxing, who am I then? So who is Billy? Billy the boxer. Now I'm Billy. So who's Billy? So I went through 2 years of real pain, suffering, depression, divorce. I was on my way to going bankrupt. So I had a tough time. Then I hit rock bottom, and then that was the point for me. The old cliche: I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was, and it's like, I need to make some changes, because who I'm being and what I'm doing is no longer working for me. So I looked in the mirror and I had a word with myself, and I went to work on myself, and I pulled myself to pieces to look at and discover who I am. Because that's a question for us all, because who we are is not who we really are. It's a part of us.
Yep.
We have so many facets to us, and the one that we have and the one that we go to work with every day is kind of so ingrained in us, but there is so much more to us as well. If you're willing, it takes a willingness to go and have a look. Yeah, cool. Yeah, my life's not perfect, and some days are more challenged than others, and it's energy for me is a big one. It's if I'm tired, if I'm physically tired, that knocks me back a little bit. So I have to really manage my rest. Is so important to recuperate, regenerate. Your rest is so key. I mean, I meditate most days, so I'm very mindful of looking after my physical wellness, as well as my nutritional well-being, and the mental well-being, and the physical well-being. I encompass all that, and I've designed a life such that I kind of can take care of it all the time. And I get tired, I get physically tired, so I have to, that knocks me back. So I'm just mindful of plenty. And that's, as an athlete, as a boxer, you got very good at that. We get very sensitive to any little thing that's kind of not quite right. We know it, because as an athlete, as a boxer, you'll be so aware of, you'd cut your fingernail too short and that would piss you off. You know what I mean? Just any little blister on your little toe or something. And it'd be something ridiculous like that, or a bit of a sore throat, and because you're pushing your body, you're on the limit all the time, and it's so close to breaking down at any point. And it's like, I was listening to something yesterday. I was talking about happiness, what you joy and happiness, and what you love doing. And it's trying to find things that you kind of disappear. So when I go to the gym now, and I get into the zone, I kind of disappear. I kind of forget about everything. I don't realise I'm in there. And then it's finding things like that. So then as a boxer, for sure, because you've got to be so ultra present. Because if you're not, the way that I looked at that, if you're not present, you're dead. You got to be. If you're walking to the ring and if you're thinking about, oh, did I leave the window open, or did that, you're dead. That's the way that I used to look at it. And the great thing about like what she talked about is boxing is an opportunity for us to just disappear. Because we a lot of us struggle to be with who we are. maybe she was struggling to be who she is. And then she gets in the ring and just disappears, and that's the bliss. That's kind of a bliss state to be in, to disappear yourself. So it's finding something. When I meditate, I kind of disappear a little bit. The analytical mind is going a lot, but it disappears occasionally. So it's finding an activity that allows you to disappear. Going to the gym does it for me. Reading a good book does it as well. Just find it. So just to be able to shut that internal dialogue, the voice in our head, the analytical mind, if we can shut that down, then that's heaven.
Knowing what Billy the coach now knows,
yep.
If you knew all of that, and I know this is a hypothetical scenario, but if you took everything that you've learned since boxing and had it in situ when you were fighting, do you think it would have made a difference to your career?
Yeah. Well, so the work that I've been doing over the last decade or so with the mind and with the meditation, all the stuff that I know now, and being more in tune, being more awake, would definitely have made a difference to me as a boxer. Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
If you could, so I don't work with many boxers, but I work with a few, because I've got an absolute world of knowledge. But some fighters, they can't hear it. So they have to be open and willing to look at things which maybe ain't the normal, or they're outside of their realms of thinking that they've grown up in and stuff. But there's such a wealth of knowledge and stuff out there which can really support fighters. And that's the bit, that's the exciting bit, because to elevate performance is what is that? And it's 80% of fights are won up in the mind. That's the way that I look at it. If you've got the mindset right, and if you're thinking right, and you've done the right work, you've got to be physically, that goes without saying. To even get into the ring, you've got to be in great physical shape. But what makes the champion is the mindset. And that's what I really believe. And that's why I created my brand, Mental Boxing, because it is mental boxing. And it's the internal dialogue. It's that stuff. That's what has people succeed and be champions and excel at something. You see, that stuff, that's what really interests me.
I wouldn't say there's too many, if any, fighters have managed to reinvent themselves the way you have, because you had a phenomenal story in the ring. But I suppose to get into the record and everything, as your many fighters probably would have, after one or two losses in the biggest fights, they would have walked. Was that ever an option for you, or were you just hell-bent on getting your title?
No, I was just hell-bent. I just couldn't. I'm so persistent. That wasn't an option for me. I just kept going. And I won the IBO title on my fourth attempt. So and then it was like, relief. It was kind of like a relief more than anything. It was kind of, I've done it.
Yeah.
Having won the British, the Commonwealth, the European, then eventually winning that, it was kind of it was such a journey. But then it was such an accomplishment, such a journey, and such relief. It was wow. I've done it. It was kind of a lifetime's work in pursuit of a dream. So dreams do come true.
Absolutely. And the synchronicity between that and now is that if you hadn't have kept going, I guess. You still would, I believe you still, because what's in you was there to be found, and you found it, you tapped into it. But the fact that a lot of it, as well as people will see, first and foremost, when you bring in that beautiful belt and you put it on the table, it's for people that aren't, like, it's still, to me, when I see a belt, it's like, wow, it's like that visual thing. It's that first impression. So you've got that, and you couldn't buy that.
Creates that. You talked about listening a little while ago, and that creates the listening. Because once I see that, you've got to listen to that. So my story now, so I'm leveraging my past now, the story, to then create the listening out there in the world. Because most people get me, but I'm not everyone's cup of tea either. So that's just the way that it is. And but a lot of guys like me and you, a lot of guys, they love it because I've been there and done it. I've got the story, and I'm talking some all right stuff.
I don't know why I call this the real world, but is there anything in the everyday world that compares to that? When you're, say, getting ready to do a gig, or you're getting ready to go speak in front of hundreds of people, does it come close?
It's exactly the same.
Is it?
Exactly the same. Because if you think about it, your brain releases the same chemicals for whatever it's doing. So it's the fight or flight, it's the fear, the anxiety, the concern about getting it right, looking bad, how's it going to go? Are they going to get it? What am I going to look like? All that is just exactly the same chemical release. Before you step into the ring, before you go and deliver a pitch, before you go into a business meeting, it's the same.
Wow.
But the great thing about when I go and speak at a gig, I've got no one trying to kill me, which is nice. Which is a nice change.
The worst thing that's going to happen is you might only get a half an applause, whereas in the ring you might.
I might cock it up a little bit. I might get it, but they wouldn't even know anyway. That's
it. And do any of the highs, the highest highs? I know this is I can guess what the answer is. Any of the highs along this journey compared to the absolute.
Honestly, right? There are occasions, and they happen quite a lot. They happen more. So there are days when I say to myself, and I say to people, you know what? I feel the best I've ever felt, ever. So that for me that's it. You can't want any more than that.
Yeah.
If I can authentically say, I feel the best I've ever felt, ever, and then I say that the next day, it's just, you can't even make that up.
No, I do that about every interview.
And it's not every day that I say that, but there are occasions quite often that I do say that, and it's like, wow, here I am, 50 years of age, and I feel the best I've ever felt, ever. And I swear, I believe that the best is yet to come. I'm going to live until I'm 130, so I've got another 50 strong years left. So the other 30, I'm just going to go on holiday and chill out. I'm going to go strong for the next 50 years.
Not long after Jack Lindsay passed away, I wanted to do something, and then I knew we were going to speak, so I thought, you know what, we'll hold over and we'll do that. Mentor, coach, life, role model, everything.
Yeah.
All rolled into one for you.
I was like the third person in his marriage. Our relationship was such that, so my dad introduced me to Jack when I was 16, 17, then he became my trainer. And we turned pro together, and he was my main man. Yeah, he was, and I called him Gentleman Jack, because Jack was not your stereotypical boxing trainer, because he liked opera. He used to paint and draw. He was softly spoken. Never used to raise his voice. He was just an absolute gentleman. Now he had a gym in Luton, and I can't even imagine how many boxers have gone through that gym over the years. And all the difference and the impact that that man made to so many men who have come through that gym over the years, coming through Luton, who have been in Jack's gym. There's like hundreds. And he had such an impact and made such a difference to the community of Luton for hundreds of kids and stuff over the years. It's just amazing, an absolute gentleman. And he was a master. He was a great trainer. And we was boxing in London. We had a fight coming up, and Emmanuel Stewart was over because he was working with Lennox Lewis, I think, at the time. And so Mickey Duff. So Emmanuel Stewart was talking to Mickey Duff, watching me on the pads with Jack. And Emmanuel Stewart said to Mickey, "That's one of the best trainers I've seen. We need more of that. We need more of those. We need more of Jack." And that's what he said to Mickey Duff. He said he was the best one of the best trainers that he was a great pad on the pads. Yeah, amazing. He was incredible how the energy, what he had, the knowledge he had. He was just incredible. Night after night, I don't know how he did it. He got smashed to bits on the pads. All them guys whacking them. Like, it's unbelievable. Round after round after round. Incredible. Amazing.
Amazing is one word for it, yeah. For Jack, for you got me again, almost. Listening to it back there, it's brilliant. It's honest, it's real, and it's hard-hitting, but it's true. And if ever you need an example, if ever you need something just to give you that little kick in the arse, there you go. Be talking to you soon, Billy. Thanks very much, my man. What a tribute to Jack at the end. And you nearly got me. Going to get ahead with round 2 of the shout-outs here, and then we're going to wrap it all up with some news. Kirby, Conlon, Burke, great crack as usual. Lads I like to call Dad's Army. I couldn't tell you the real name on the group chat, but Ger, Paddy, Steve, Conrad, and all the gang on Glen Boxing Club, thoughts are with you guys. Dervla Duffy, special lady, a really special person. Thank you for your messages over the Christmas, and you know what I said, I mean every word of it. Ella, the most wonderful, kindest, beautiful soul somehow connected with. I'm so blessed, and thank you for your help. Aaron Vickercroft across there in Dubai, looking forward to working with you. Thanks again. We're looking forward to working with you in the new year. Ollie Toy, my man. Big year was 2019 for you. The best is yet to come. Keep the head up, keep swinging. You know what you can do now. No stopping you, none whatsoever. Levi, Alison, Chloe and all the gang, Melissa, Dana, Paul, Casey, everybody there, thank you for your messages and for the crack. Looking forward to the first party of the new year, Levi. I've got to get a look at that one. Carl Kelly, amazing man. Happy birthday to you, belatedly so, but thank you for your messages, and hopefully we can figure it out. Whenever the comeback is on, you know where I'm at. Don't hesitate. And finally, last but not least, want to give a shout out to Chrissy, Victor, Steve, Ryan and all the gang in the Rokes gym. Big year for you guys coming up. Ryan just progressing into the pro ranks now. Special talent there as well, and will definitely be up there sooner rather than later to catch up with Stephen and all the lads. And before we wrap it all up, Bob Aram confirms Carl Frampton will challenge Jamel Herring for his WBO super featherweight title this summer, and it will be in Belfast. Happy days. Carl Frampton could, should and most likely will become a 3-time world champion. Incredible, and what a special man he is too, extending beyond boxing and everything else he does for his community. A really great example of this great sport. Sticking with Belfast fighters, Mick Conlon's new opponent is rumoured to be Hiroshi Oswa. He got that out in one go too. Japanese, 36-4. He's lost the TKO decision to Oscar Valdez in 2016, and this could and should be Conlon's eliminator to get a title shot, possibly later in the year. Not sure yet who that will be against. There is talk of Shakur Stevenson vacating at the weight because he's struggling a touch, but whatever the case may be, watch that space. Celtic Clash 10, Eric Donovan tops the bill with a great fight there against Christian Montilla, Owen O'Neill, Senan Kelly, Aaron Gettins, Rhys Moran, Kelvin MacDonald, Francie Lazoho versus Stephen Ward. The list goes on and on and on. A really action-packed, barn-burning card. Leonard, Stephen, Dennis really are pulling out all the stops. The tickets are £35, standard £50 ringside. They're available from all the fighters. They're available online. Get along there and support them. It's going to sell out. It's going to be an amazing clash. It's going to be the best yet. By a stretch. So do what you can to support them, individually or collectively. DDP Promotions will step into the Irish European scene later on this year with a soon-to-be-announced card. They're of course the promoters of Dennis Hogan, who himself will be announcing an exciting deal over the next few days or weeks. Watch out for that. A really cracking deal. Just saw something in the news there earlier on today that made my blood curl a little bit, to be honest with you. An incident with a GA player in Newry, Quillan Mooney. Horrible assault on him outside. I don't know what the intricacies of it, I don't know what caused or whatever else, but jeez, he's lucky to be alive. Really lucky to be alive. So hope everything is alright, hope he pulls through, and hope it's it's just strange. I don't know what would you be thinking to do something like that. And last but not least, Team Spike relocated stateside for their fight this weekend to acclimatise and get ready for the first big one of 2020, January the 11th, against Jaime Munguia, our old friend there from Mexico. Watch and see what plays out there. It's Munguia's first time at the weight. Spike, of course, has been there a few times, settled at it, comfortable at it. It'll be a tough ask for Spike, but look, Spike has had tough asks before and he's come up trumps. And who are we to say he can or can't do it? I believe he will go in with everything that he always goes in with. He will be a handful for Munguia, who he's lazy at times, and that's the best I can say about it. Of course he has a talent, but he likes to rest a little bit, and you're not going to do that too easy against Spike's son. So big shout out to the Cork man, Pascal, and all the team there that are over there getting him ready for it. and our thoughts are with you, your support here all the time, and hopefully some stage in the near future we'll get to chat with you. That's it from me and them until then. You'll find this and every other episode at www.enswellboxingpodcast.com, and as always, love to get your messages. 083 351 5250.
This is Jerry Cooney on Enswell Boxing. I want you for 6 rounds. You and me, baby, 6 rounds.